back for episode 3, and better than Revenge of the Sith. It is the Community Solutions Minnesota radio podcast, and I am Jason Bradley, and again, my right-hand man
Andrew Richter, and I want to say one quick thing. We are the best sequel going.
That's right.
There's no question. I mean, Revenge of the Nerds 2, anybody see that guy? It was terrible. A couple sequels got better, but...
by the time they got to Police Academy 6?
Yeah.
What was that about?
Rocky 5? I mean... yes, and we're definitely better than Attack of the Clowns or whatever was Star Wars.
And we just keep getting better with age, I tell you.
Like a fine wine.
Yes.
Like a real dry Merlot, we just get better and better and better. So, interesting subject today. It's kind of a sore spot for you and I. And it should be for all of you out there as well. Good old Botno Transit. You know, I'll tell you what. We've talked about this a lot on TV and on the blogosphere. And we talked about it a little bit on our first program. And by the way, if you want to listen to it, go to communitysolutions.wordpress.com. Get those clicks, get those listens up there. Botno Transit, the history of Botno Transit. Some interesting little tidbits from the powers that be as to why this needs to be forced down our throat, and what are the consequences of doing so.
Yeah. Well, where to start? There's so much. Here we are recording this kind of in the shadow of Mordor itself, aren't we?
That's right. You can see it from here. see it from my backyard.
Hear
too.
it. It's no good. But I know we can maybe sound like a broken record about this at times, but I think that we need to. And I don't think that you guys see it as sounding like a broken record, because it's important to understand not only what the project is, but how it got started and where it's come and where it's going, because A, we need to know how to stop it here in our own community, and B, for all of you that are affected by the 11 other rail lines that they want to create in the metro over the next how many years, it's important to know how you can stop it before it begins.
And it's important to know, too, it's not just about light rail. It's about land use.
Yeah.
It's about changing your life, your quality of life, perhaps, making you live in a different place, choose a different mode of transportation, not the market doing it, and this thing called capitalism that we used to practice in this country. I would argue we have a neo-capitalism right now. But really what... just to dive into the history a little bit to start, this is all part of something called the Transportation Policy Plan of the Met Council.
Yep.
And this is really, it began in earnest in the 90s with the Hiawatha Project. But Hiawatha is a small part of an overall campaign. It is not just build a light rail here, see if it's successful, see if people ride it. Maybe that was worth it to do it once. I still say no, but let's just pretend that was the plan. Let's put it up between our busiest city, the biggest city, and one of the biggest cities in the whole region, Minneapolis. Bring it down to the airport, and the Mall of America, perhaps our biggest tourist attraction here as well. And if that works, and people use it, and people want it, and they demand more, maybe we'll look into doing more. But that's not what happened. That's never what's happened.
No.
This is an effort to change your way of life. Everything from land use to street development to transportation and transit, which of course are two different things, to housing, to where you work, where you bank, where you get groceries, where you buy new underwear, whatever. It is all affected by transit plans. There is a plan in place to change your behavior. And I think that's the part people miss. It's the part the media does not talk about. They never speak of these things. It's all just about the political game of, who's ahead in the polls. And nobody really, does anybody ever analyze, outside of you and me, the transportation policy plan and put it on a website somewhere where somebody can actually read it? That's never happened before. There's no interest in it at all. So I think when we talk about the history of this and we talk about what's going forward, understand that it's bigger than one light rail line. That's maybe a quarter of what the real issue is, because the light rail becomes an excuse to do everything else. Well, now that we have the light rail, we have to get people to ride it. Well, how do we do that? Well, we build high-density housing around it.
Right.
How do we do that? We make it more of a pain in the arse to drive your car. We'll make roads narrower. We'll take lanes of traffic away. We will... Crystal's comprehensive plan calls to build a pedestrian bridge on Highway 81. At what cost and where the demand for it is, I don't know. Mixed use. So many times we talked about mixed use, which is housing above retail and office space. The light rail becomes the excuse to do all of that.
Yeah, and it's been in the works for a long, long, long time. And we talk about how the Metro Council kind of formulated this plan. Well, they did for this region. But if it ever made you wonder why you not only find these here, but you also find a big plan to put this in place in San Diego or Portland or Washington, D.C. or Austin, Texas. All these other places are considering this because of free money. And again, we're putting up air quotes here because it's never free. It comes from us, right? But that the Federal Transportation Administration has money that they want to dole out to cities to put this kind of plan in place. They got China's money.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, they work in conjunction with HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Yes.
You have to have a land use plan to go along with this. Mm-hmm. That's why when you go to if you go to botnotransitway.org, there's a bunch of land use, as well as the former Botno partnership, which we'll talk about, but which is no longer a partnership, which is BotnoBoulevardPartnership.org, I think is where you go to find that. Horrendous website, but there is some stuff there. I think it was updated last when Reagan was president, but it was a very poor job, and I think on purpose. I mean, that's just my opinion. But
yes,
to get the free money, and again, free meaning, well, we're sending the money to Washington, and they're sending some of it back with strings attached. You have to go through these steps in order to do it. Like, you wonder, you and I were at a forum for the Gateway project, which is
Woodbury,
which is behind Botno quite a few years, but they are revving up. They're doing the same thing. But the first step is they need to create a partnership.
Yes,
they need to get the governments together, the local governments, the Met Council, the county,
major businesses,
some major businesses together, and get them all on the same page. Now, this is, instead of coming to citizens and saying, here's the plan, is this something you want? Is this something you desire? Because I don't see many people going to council meetings demanding light rail.
No.
I've never seen it.
No.
I don't see it at the state level. I've attended hearings where the people speaking in favor of it are local government, Met Council, Transit for Livable Communities,
Target Corporation,
which has been bought off. The demand for this is coming from planners. So the planners and the heads of government have got to get in bed together. Oh, what a disgusting thought. They've got to get on the same page, not in bed together. I don't want to think of them in bed together. So they have to get on the same page. So what they do is they seek out partners. Mm-hmm. In the Gateway area, it's 3M. 3M is now in bed with the Gateway Partnership. Out here, it's Target. It's Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
It's, they're not a business, but North Hennepin Community College.
Yep.
The hospital.
Yep.
North Memorial. And they're all part of, along with a representative from each city, representative from the county, representative from the Met Council. That basically made up the Botno partnership. By the way, any coincidence that we'll get into what the LPA is, locally preferred alternative. Any coincidence that that just ends up going right by the hospital, right by North Edinburgh Community College, and ends at the Target campus?
No coincidence
No gaming,
whatsoever.
no gaming the system there.
No. That was what the Stars had that in the.
Yeah.
You know, before the world was made, that was in the stars. That light rail line was going to go
Absolutely.
that direction.
I don't know how. No cause and effect there.
No.
But again, we've talked about it before. When business and government gets together, it creates unfair rules because all businesses are not subject to the same rules, and we, the people, are the loser because the two biggest things, government and business. And unfortunately, I think too many businesses are seeking to work with government rather than viewing government as getting in their way, which I think government usually does. I also think it is improper for a partnership to be created and these people in local government serving on it.
Yeah.
Is another improper use of their authority.
Exactly, and I wrote articles back, 2-3 years ago that outline this, where you have the mayors of all these cities that they're elected by you and supposed to represent you.
Your city. They're supposed to represent your city, not a board. Your
Right.
city.
Instead, they go and they be a part of a board who is tasked with making the light rail come to fruition. So even if you're against it, somehow how do they represent you and that board? If you're against it, the board is for it. How do they reconcile it?
They don't.
And
the board is there to make sure you can't.
And that's the thing. I mean, we talk about, I know last episode, we mentioned ethics and how ethics were a problem, a lack of ethics. Our leaders not understanding what ethical behavior is. And this is just another example of that.
Well, and we've talked about it too. The head of the League of Minnesota Cities used to be the mayor of Alexandria. Well, how does he represent Alexandria and at the same time represent the League? What if the two things are in conflict?
Yeah.
How do you reconcile that difference? Same thing on this board. I mean, determining what the best thing is for a city. I mean, for example, if you think light rail is a good idea for Crystal, you might still, we're going to pick on Crystal because we live here, you might still object to the route, where the stations are, the land use plan around it.
Yep.
I mean, every city has to take that into account when they're doing this stuff.
Yeah, every city does. I mean, that's what's in their comprehensive plan, is how all of this works together, and then they have to package it together, ship it off to the Met Council, who says, yeah, that jives with our 2030 plan, or it doesn't.
Authority,
And that's the way it works in the cities. Obviously, outstate, you've got other plans where you might have, buses that come through town from one town to another, or you might, they're planning the high-speed rail to go down south. We kind of put the kibosh on the high-speed rail they wanted to send up north. Thank goodness. At least for now, nothing has ever gone for good with these guys.
Well, if you're talking about North Star, I think it's pretty much gone for good. Because just as a tidbit, the FTA has two separate standards. One, and I don't have time to get into detail. One for a new line, another to expand an existing line.
Yep.
North Star is so far from that, it would probably take 50 years for them to even qualify. Now, that doesn't mean these people ain't going to stop trying.
Right.
Because the original plan was to take it to Fargo.
Yeah.
Then they tried St. Cloud. That didn't fly.
Yeah.
Now it goes to Becker, Big Lake.
Yep.
Which nobody knows because nobody takes it. So it's hard. It's 86% subsidized by the taxpayers.
Yeah,
So,
but that's the thing that surprised me. I thought that the Gateway light rail was supposed to go out to the river.
right.
And then I find, it's
Hudson,
going to hit
I think.
Hudson. Who's going to pay for that bridge in between Minnesota and Wisconsin? Are they going to share it half and half
No,
so that
they'll
you can
get-
pay for Wisconsin people to come and work in the cities?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. And then I find out
And how about
that it's
this?
going to Eau Claire.
How about this? How
Yeah.
about us going somewhere else for business? So wouldn't we lose tax revenue by doing that?
We do. We lose both ways.
We subsidize the ride,
Yeah.
and then people go to Wisconsin where the taxes are lower.
Yeah.
and then they buy stuff over there and bring it back here. We lose 2 times.
Well, and we lose there, and if we end up ever doing a high speed rail out to Fargo, North Dakota has lower taxes as well,
and a booming economy.
Yeah. And who knows, with one of these other 11 lines, are they going to put something out to South Dakota, which has no income taxes?
Yeah. Well, and they've talked about doing a line all the way down to Rochester. That, in fact, I've been reading Rochester's comprehensive plan for my new book, which will be out sometime in 2014. But they are, if you don't have cancer, there's no reason to go down to Rochester. I mean, I'm sorry, but how many people go from the Twin Cities to Rochester in a day? I mean, think about that. I mean, think about, if you have to, that's not a need. Whereas, if you need to go to the grocery store or the bank or something, you don't go to Rochester for it.
Yeah.
So if that's a problem, maybe it could be in the inner city. People don't have a car. They take the bus. Light rail might be easier. But you don't have to go to Eau Claire to do those things. So it makes me, again, wonder what the point is of having a light rail line that's 200. Look at Amtrak.
Right.
Look at how long have we subsidized that?
And it's still, it doesn't turn a profit. It's terrible.
Oh.
And some of the arguments that we hear about it as well, you have people that live in the suburbs that don't want to sit in traffic, that don't want to have all these fumes that they're breathing in, I would say that maybe you shouldn't move out to where there's not a way to get you efficiently to your job if you don't have that. If you don't have the means to get to work, live closer to work or something. I'm not trying to be calloused here. But for you to have...
No, but you're right. The idea that we have to, because you don't like sitting in traffic, we've got to now subsidize your drive. Subsidize, because, they'll subsidize housing around this. Yeah. Section 8. The idea that that now becomes the taxpayer's responsibility is ridiculous.
Because you don't want to live in Minneapolis.
Right, and I would take it a step further. Most people do not live in the suburbs and work downtown anymore.
It's true.
I don't. I would have no use for a light rail unless, maybe if I were going to the ball game and I don't want to pay for parking.
Well,
but the Twins are going to have to get Twins are going to have to get a little bit better for me to care. But the point being that it is not the way suburbs first emerged, where people wanted to live in the suburb and work in the city. That pattern's also changed. And how's that taken into account in the future? 20 years from now, are there going to be fewer people? More people working at home with technology?
Exactly. Populations are shrinking in not only in Minneapolis, but in our suburbs and in the state at large.
And I would even take it a step further. The places that are growing are not the places we're putting light rail. We've grown over the last 2 decades or so in the outer suburbs. Places like Otsego and Albertville and Lakeville.
Elk River
and Lake Elmo and...
Chaska.
Yeah, and that's not where we're putting high-speed travel. So
we're running up Minneapolis, which lost people since the last census. We're running it into Robbinsdale, which maybe stayed the same, but lost a little bit. Crystal, which lost about, about 4,000 since the last census?
No, they were lost a little bit since 2000. Since 1970, which was the peak,
lost a lot.
We've lost about 25%.
So we're building it in a succession of cities that continue to lose population, speaking to the Bottineau line.
Especially the Bottineau
line.
And Brooklyn Park has grown, but they've grown in the western part of the city by Maple Grove and Champlin. They have not grown. I went to college at North Hennepin back in the 90s.
Yeah.
I can tell you the area looks the same. The same shopping centers, the same places I studied on my lunch break. They haven't changed since. The only thing that's different is the Target campus and 610.
Yeah, because as you're going up 81 there, what do you have? You have a lot of businesses. So unless you're looking at taking those businesses out entirely, you're still going to just have a lot of businesses.
And you would have to, because the plan is to go up 81. The local
Mm-hmm.
preferred alternative is to go up 81 and then up past 694, go up Broadway, where
Yeah.
there's no line.
Right.
So everything has to be torn down on one side
Mm-hmm.
or the other.
Yep.
You know, where Cub Foods is there, and
Yeah.
going all the way up to the Target campus. So everything has to be, something has to be taken out for that to happen. It's not like the original idea, which was to take it up into Osseo or Maple
Yeah.
Grove, where the rail already goes. Not that I favor that either, but
Right.
that would at least made a little more sense.
Yeah.
But I think the lobbying by Target and by North Enemy Community College, who the former head, John O'Brien,
Yeah.
was actually at the Met Council arguing for this. And he's argued for it in front of cities as well.
Yep.
He clearly has his personal agenda. And he's not there. I don't know why he's not there anymore. But they, I believe, are the ones who got it to go through Broadway. But to do that is going to be way more expensive, way more time consuming, and disrupt people's lives a whole lot more.
And let me tell you, the densest part of Brooklyn Park is going up Zane and where Zane and Broadway meet, and the area surrounding that. And that
And Brooklyn
is-
Boulevard.
Brooklyn Boulevard. That's what I
Yeah.
meant. That is the densest part, and that's where most of your population is. And there's already tons of little shops and restaurants and bars and whatever.
Development's already there.
It's already there, and there's already buses to take people back and forth. So
They're there all the time. If you drive, I've bowled up there. You know that new bowling
Yeah,
alley.
yeah.
Buses go by there at all times of
Yeah.
the day.
You have buses coming from Brooklyn Center Transit Center. You have buses that go up 81. You have buses that go up Zane. So I don't understand exactly where they think that all this new population is going to come from. They think, what, we're going to build all this high density, probably on the west side of County Road 81, because they're not going to tear down Walmart and Fleet Farm and all that.
No, they're too big to be torn
They're
down.
too big, and they'll
They got
lobby.
too much political clout.
They'll
Small
lobby.
businesses
Yeah.
don't have it, but the big businesses do.
So as we look at this, and well, what about people that want to make these stops on the way home? And really, you're going to stop at Walmart or Fleet Farm, which off that tracks is really pushing that half a mile boundary where they like to have things because of all the space and how wide the road is and
Well,
how
and-
many blocks it's offset.
I would agree. Keep in mind the weather.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest here. Nobody's going to walk a mile to Fleet Farm in the middle of January.
No.
If you want to go there, you're going to drive there.
Yep.
I'm sorry, but that's just the truth. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's the same thing with Brooklyn Boulevard and Zane, which is
Yeah.
at least a half a mile from Broadway. Who from there, when the bus stop is right out in front of their apartment building or wherever, who's going to walk a mile in January or February to take the light rail?
Nobody is.
I mean,
Nobody
somebody
is.
might do the park and ride, but where they're projecting to, and again, we're probably not going to get in all these details, but there's some places they want a park and ride, some places they want what's called a kiss and ride, where
Yeah.
you can drop somebody off, but you can't park.
Right.
Some of them are just walk-ups, like the one that is projected for. Well, I can see it from here.
Yes.
81 in Bass Lake Road.
Yes, there it is.
81 in Bass Lake Road, where there'll be no parking. You can't park and you can't even drop somebody off. It's all walking. Well, who's going to do that 6 months out of the year?
Yeah, I mean, nobody is. I mean, maybe the very hardy, but if people are working that hard and that serious, they probably have enough money to buy a car. They're not going to. So, I tell you, you look at Crystal, and they want to do this redevelopment with the mixed use, and they figure people are going to come on the light rail, get off the light rail, go shopping, get back on the light rail, go home. But then, who says people are going to stop at Crystal? Because if you look at the plans now for Brooklyn Center around 63rd, they want to redo that with putting in a bunch of shops and
In the process of doing it now.
yeah. So who's going to say?
Robbinsdale? How about
Yeah.
downtown Robbinsdale?
You've got that.
Why would you stop? If everything's in Robbinsdale, why would you ride up to Crystal?
Yeah, for things that aren't right on the main road, you have to walk to go find out what's there.
Well, and I would say Crystal, I mean, are people going to get off at the light rail, walk down to Target, shop, get a bunch of bags, walk down back to the... I mean, again, practically...
6 blocks away.
Right. If I'm going to go get groceries, I'm not taking the light rail.
Yeah.
You're going to get in the grocery getter, get off the sofa with the spring sticking out of it. You're going to go to... get in the grocery getter, or what do we have now? The maroon minivan,
Yeah.
that replaced the old station wagon that
Yep.
my parents drove, and you might have to take the kids, if they're not old enough to stay at home by themselves.
Yeah.
I don't see that, and I mean, I just can't picture that happening. If I'm going to go Christmas shopping, I'm not going to take the light rail and carry my crap a half a mile.
No.
Nobody's going to do it.
No.
But again, I want to bring this up. This is important. Whoever challenges these people's conclusions, you know what I'm saying? Like what we're
You
saying.
mean besides us?
Right. But I mean, what
Yeah.
I'm saying, well, are people really going to walk a mile or two to take light rail? Does anybody ever ask that question?
Yeah.
Do people really want to be crammed in to some, high density project where it's constantly busy? You're above a store. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think that's the American dream. And maybe
No.
I'm old fashioned, and that I think the American dream is your home, whatever you want your home to be.
Yes.
Whether that's big, all I care about is the garage. Your wife might want the host Thanksgiving and have the fireplace and all that stuff. But whatever you make it out to be, that's what you're going to desire. What I'm saying is, I don't think it's something that government can roll out and plan.
No.
They have to say, okay, here are the conditions for housing, but what the houses are have to be left up to the private sector.
Exactly. And you've got to be serious and take a look at the populations of each area you're planning to run through. I mean, Crystal is an aging population, and you're going to expect elderly people to get out in sub-zero temperatures and walk to a light rail station 6 blocks away or more in order to take the light rail downtown when A, they don't have a job, or B, take it north to
They
Walmart,
may not
walk
even have a
another
car.
6 blocks just to get to Walmart, another 6 blocks to get back to the light rail, and 6 blocks to get back home. That's 2 miles of walking, all in all. They're not going to do that.
Right, and people our age aren't going to do that. And I think
No.
the other thing is that, because I know that the Kavanaugh building that is
Yeah.
going in, one of the excuses for making that, now again, City of Crystal won't say this publicly, they've let it slip a couple times, is, well, we got Botno Transit coming. Well, really? I mean, there's no stop that's supposed to be there. So if somebody, like you said, wants to ride, they got to go across the bridge on 81,
Yeah.
walk through the very busy road, get to the other side of the street because the station is planned tentatively to be on the southwest corner. I don't even see anybody doing that in the middle of the summer.
No.
So, especially when there's a bus stop down the street. I mean, if you really want to go somewhere, and a lot of seniors buildings have a lot of the things the seniors need there.
They do. Yeah.
I know my grandmother's in an assisted living.
Yeah.
Her sisters help her with her medication. They take her shopping. It's not few people. I mean, I would say scarcely any are going to be in the situation where they're totally dependent on somebody for mass transit, light rail.
Right. I don't know where they would want to go. Where this line is going, I can't foresee them wanting to go any of those places.
Yeah, unless the seniors want to go to the Target campus and check it out. I don't know.
I don't know.
Go take some classes up in North Hennepin.
Yeah.
And I don't see how light rail benefits North Hennepin. Who's going to, if you have a scholarship to Harvard, you're not going to go to North Hennepin because there's light rail. North Hennepin's a place to go if you want to save some money, or if
Take
you
your generals, yeah.
right, or if you weren't able to get into a 4-year college for whatever reason.
Yeah.
That's an alternative to go. It's not a place anybody really says, nah, when I grow up and go to college, I'm going to go to North Hennepin. And I'm not belittling it because I got my associate's degree
It's got
there
its
myself.
place.
Yeah, it does. But I don't think light rail is going to be a factor in somebody going there.
No, not at all. And even that, I mean, it's not right on the light rail line.
Well, and take something else into account.
Yeah.
If you live just west, just east, or just north, the light rail doesn't go by you anyway. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter whether the light rail's there or not. Unless it goes to your driveway,
Yeah.
like your car does, you're probably not going to take it. So
Right.
it lacks practicality. And I think getting back to how this works. I mean, you look at the formation of this partnership. What happens then is something called an AA, and I don't mean Alcoholics Anonymous, although this might make you want to join that, it might make you drink. I know I've spent nights up at the watering hole after I've studied this, and that is called an alternative analysis study, which again is a step they have to do to get state and most importantly federal funding.
Yeah.
Now this is where they weigh the transportation, quote, options. This is where they pretend, and I'm going to say that because I think it's true, they're going to pretend to weigh buses versus bus rapid transit, which is basically your own lane for a bus. I mean, if I could just, it's not like the buses now.
Yeah.
It's bus rapid transit, meaning buses have their own lane to go down to the central station there in Minneapolis. They pretend that they're going to weigh that against light rail. And it's amazing. Every time they do an alternative analysis study, no matter where it is, I would challenge anybody to find this. They always pick light rail as the better option. It never is buses, ever.
Ever.
And I would challenge anybody to find me where they've said, bus rapid transit, that's what we want. I mean, in bus rapid transit, I should say, this is from Hennepin County's own documents, which again, curiously, I don't see reported anywhere except here, actually say that bus rapid transit is half the cost, and I believe it's less than that. Because when they talk about the cost of light rail, they're not factoring in land use.
Right.
Half the cost, and would actually be faster by 3 minutes.
Yes.
Getting from Target campus on 610 down to Minneapolis would be 3 minutes faster. Now, you tell me on what planet does it make sense to choose the option that's twice as expensive and slower?
Right. And, I mean, look at the video that we made out on YouTube of Mike Opat's park and ride up there on 63rd and 81. And you guys listening along can find this on YouTube. So if you follow this podcast out to YouTube, it is one of the videos listed under our channel. And that park and ride is 2 levels. And the lower level alone is maybe 1/3 full on any given day.
Yeah, and I would say 1/3 is probably pushing it.
Yeah. And so you're telling me that just because you run light rail up and down that line, all of a sudden that's going to be full, and you're going to have both levels of that park and ride in use.
Well, and I would take it a step further. If there was a demand for public transit, that should be full every day.
It should be.
To me, that's the demand. If people with their, they really wanted to not use their car, and were that upset about traffic congestion, they would be. You and I could drive there in a minute.
Yeah.
So if it was that big of a deal, X amount of people would do it.
Yeah, and I'm telling you this. They started out. Well, I don't know how many they had at the start, but I think at the most they've had like 5 lines running in each direction each day, and they're back down to 3. So you have 3 options as far as getting north or south on that line, and but it's still going to be faster than light rail would ever be.
And like we've said before, folks, and I'm not making this up, you could hide a dead body in there and nobody'd find it for 10 years.
Smell included.
It's smell included. I mean, believe me, it reeks in there, and nobody would find it. But again, the fact that they choose light rail tells you a lot about their motives. You have to ask yourself, well, why? Why are they picking light rail? And the answer is they want to develop around it, change your lifestyle, get you to change your behavior, and get you to shop at certain places. And
and that's it. I mean, why would they want to talk about doing that? Let's take a look at the Hennepin County website here.
Yeah, we're gonna give us a second here. They put out something called a fact sheet. I call it an opinion sheet.
Yeah. It's like we talked about in the first podcast, where you find facts to support your theory.
Well, you get a theory, then you invent facts to support your predetermined conclusion.
Yeah.
But some of the things we just talked about, 5 factors, and this is on botnotransitway.org. You can click on their fact sheet, and it says the purpose. The purpose is to provide transit service, which would satisfy a long-term regional mobility and accessibility needs for the business and traveling public. Well, interesting. The 5 factors contributing to the need, and again, need, it's really a want, not a need, for Botno Transit. Number 1, growing travel demand. Really? I think we just talked about the 63rd and 81. Where's the growing travel demand?
It's decreasing. They're decreasing routes. It's not full.
And again, the population has not gone up. So increasing traffic congestion. Well, let me ask a question. Is the traffic congestion down 81 in North Minneapolis and Robbinsdale, or is it out on
Highway 100?
694 out in New Brighton?
It's horrible there, too. Or is it because in the summer they've got every single highway in the metro ripped up?
Yes. I mean, it's a very bad job of planning. Number 3, needs of people who depend on transit. Really? Needs of people who depend on transit.
So we need to have the Botno corridor because there are people who depend on it.
Right, but remember...
What do they do today?
I don't know. And remember, needs. Remember, what are people's needs? Housing.
To get to
food,
work.
Water.
Right.
How's water being served by transit? How is, let's talk about needs, not wants.
Right.
And chances are, if you need travel, you are taking a bus, and that bus can go anywhere.
Well, I remember earlier or later last week, Metro Council had put out a tweet talking about how important it was that the needs of the underprivileged were met by transit.
So it's social justice by transit.
Yes.
Here's an idea. If you want to serve their needs, quit taxing them to death, quit trapping them in failing schools, give them opportunity. When you put them on transit, you're increasing their dependency.
Exactly.
Geez, I'll tell you what. I say profound things once in a while. That was one of the most profound. Folks,
that is.
I know it's hard to believe that just came to me right now. It just came to me.
It was like a lightning strike. I could see it.
Boom! I'm sorry to bleed all over it. Lightning hit me right in the eye.
Sorry.
All right, number 4, limited transit service to suburban destinations and time-efficient travel options.
So what they're saying here is that right now there aren't enough buses to go out to all of the suburban destinations, and that if you want to get home, say that you have an emergency at 10 in the morning just after you got to work, you have no way to get home because you've taken the bus in because there's no demand for it currently to go back at 10 o'clock. Yes, there is. You know what? When I used to go through all that rigmarole and there was an emergency, guess what? I hopped on the 5 and prayed for my life all the way back to Brooklyn Center, and I walked 3 miles. And you know what? It worked, okay?
Yeah. Well, how many days do you have an emergency at 10 a.m., even you with 3 kids?
Yeah.
A handful of times,
Handful, at best.
So that's...
And are you talking about people who work downtown overnight, cleaning offices and stuff? Well, nobody else is in those parking garages, so...
it shouldn't be too hard to get downtown. Shouldn't be too congested, should it?
No, it shouldn't.
Okay, number 5. Here's maybe the kicker. Regional objections for growth. Now, that's probably... And one thing about the Met Council, they always project growth.
Always.
They project growth everywhere. They're wrong a lot. I'd like to go back to 1980 and see their 2010 plan and see how wrong that was. What makes them experts on how a region will grow? And why, again, everything can't be planned for.
Yeah.
You can't, think about it like this, okay? I've lived in this area my whole life. I lived in Plymouth, I lived in Robbinsdale also. I don't know who could have foreseen the things that have happened from then till now. The housing market, which boomed, then went down, and maybe it's going up again. I don't necessarily believe that, but who could have projected that to have happened?
Yeah.
Who could have projected tax policy, grant money, what the feds were going to do, what job market we would have with technology? How in the world can that possibly? At best, these people are taking semi-educated guesses.
At best.
But they are making policy as though their regional objectives are fact.
And that's the thing. Even these best guesses aren't based on what I would call.
They're based on formulas, by the way.
They are based on
that.
formulas, but they're skewed formulas.
Yeah.
They're not objective. They're still trying to prove a point. It's like a scientist who is trying to prove something rather than do an objective experiment to find out what
You're
really
not talking
is the
about
truth.
global warming now, are you?
Well, it could be any number of things, but it's the same concept.
Right.
Where
they have a predetermined
outcome.
position,
Yeah.
and they want to somehow get to that. And so they put out little things like this. Now, you keep reading this, okay? I mean, look at goal number 4. Promote,
Sustainable
do I see that word?
development. Yeah.
Sustainable development patterns for long-term viability. Now, we all know what sustainable development is. Again, it's the same thing we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Changing our living patterns, all those kinds of things. And here's goal number 5. Here's another kicker. Support healthy communities. Now, I don't know how taking transit to work increases my health. I have...
Because you got to walk to the station.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, couldn't I stop at McDonald's and still, just like I do, and I don't, but like I could do with my car? How does that make me healthy? And then... sound environmental practices. What is that code words for?
Sound environmental practices.
It's code words for getting you out of your car.
Yeah.
That
Exactly.
literally is stated as a goal. Now they come up, and I'm sure they got this from their focus group or their whatever. They got it through. What are we going to? We want to get people out of their cars. But we don't want to say that.
Oh, they do.
Well, they do, but not on this. But
No, not there. Current, well, not the current mayor of Minneapolis, the incoming mayor-to-be of Minneapolis, Betsy Hodges, as much said that I want to get, she flat out said, I want to get people out of their cars. And keep this in mind.
how she gets to work every day.
Well, she's going to be paid very well. Well, she's probably paid now because she works for the city of Minneapolis.
Right.
So you've got a
Their conflict of interest.
full-time council, a full-time mayor that get paid a lot of money, have a lot of power, have a lot of swing with Hennepin County, who has a lot of money, a lot of power, full-time jobs, who are pushing for this on your city councils who are part-time, making a part-time income.
$10,000 a year,
and
if that.
If that.
Well, and I would add to it Transit for Livable Communities, which is there to push TOD, sustainable development. They have 21 full-time people working.
Yes.
And they hold workshops where your city planner might attend, your city engineer might attend, your community development director might attend. And what they do is they go to these workshops, and again, not all bad people. I'm not saying that. I like our city planner in Crystal, John Sutter. I've gotten to know him real well in the planning commission. He's not a guy that strikes me that he has a personal agenda. But what happens? They go to these things and they say, well, here's the trend. Here's the direction we're going. Here's how to get the grant money. Get on board. This is the regional outlook. And so then they come back and tell the council, well, they'll draw up something and say, well, we recommend that we blah, blah, blah. And how many city council members really go in and dive in and do research and ask strong questions?
Right.
Most of them just kind of, okay, well, if that's what we're doing, then that's what we're doing.
So, you'll either have people that say, oh, Betsy Hodges, she's DFL, she wants to get people out of her cars. I agree with the DFL, I'll follow her plan, or I don't like the DFL at all, I'm not going to go with the plan. And that's really...
Another problem.
I'm not trying to make light of it or reduce, the good work that some of the folks do on our city councils. But
I'm not either.
But that's a lot of it because they're A, not given all the information, and B, it's really hard for them on these part-time salaries to go dig up all the information that they need to make an informed decision.
And I would take it a step further. When you go to these workshops, you get very biased information. I mean, when the council gets something, they get all the benefits of something. They never get here's the problems. And if it was truly objective, you'd give the councils all of the information and let them at the local level decide what's best for the city. But that never happens either.
Never happens.
Go to the Met Council's website. I mean, there's all of these. They call them webinars, which is like a PowerPoint on a website. They tell you all the benefits of TOD, all the benefits of, but they never ever give you any bad information. It's a packaged product to sell something.
Yes. That's what I was just going to say, is that,
but I said it first, you know why? Because the lightning hit me and then hit you.
No, you were midstream, and I just kind of bit my tongue. No, that's what it is. It's a sales presentation. They are salespeople. That is what they are trying to do. They won't put anything bad in there because you're not going to buy their product if they do. And so they've got this package that they're trying to get every city to look at seriously, and if they told you all the bad things, you'd never go for it. In fact, at the risk of being called a racist, but last I checked, white people committed crimes too. Crime is up along the Hiawatha line. There was just a Star Tribune article about it, how there is more crime happening consistently along that Hiawatha line.
You will be called racist for saying that. But, I mean, to me, if you're stating facts, it doesn't say who's committing the crimes. I would also say I have tried to look up statistics for the Mall of America. They don't have them.
No.
They don't publish what happens along the transit area. But I worked at the Mall of America for an entire summer when I worked for Best Buy, because we put a store in there. And I can tell you, I didn't see too many families of 5 getting off at the light rail stop to enjoy a day at the Mall of America. I didn't see too many employees getting off. So I question
groups of kids, right?
Right.
For the most part.
Right. And I don't think that transit is necessarily benefiting the Mall of America in any way, shape, or form.
Well, it's bringing teenagers out there with nothing to do and probably no money either.
Right. And what happens when teenagers have no money, nothing to do?
They cause trouble.
So, believe me, I used to be one. And you got 2 of them. But so those are, it's just, we should mention too, getting back to Botno, after they do their AA, they do something called an environmental impact study.
Yes.
Which was just completed here last year. And then that requires another round of voting on the cities, which the voting is usually already predetermined. And then there'll be an engineering study, which is going on right now. And then there'll be 3 to 4 years from construction.
Yeah, well, in fact, there was an article that just came out, and I wrote about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I did, yes.
Good old Hennepin County, you mean?
Hennepin County, yes. Hennepin County decided that they were going to go ahead.
You got to pass through all my articles first.
Well, I've got a couple in there, too. That's fine. So, what did happen is Hennepin County decided that they were going to
there we go.
give $18 million towards development of the Botno light rail line. What does that mean? Because really, we're paying for all of this. The whole thing is going to be $46 million just for the development phase. It's going to be upwards of $1 billion, they figure, in construction and everything always gets inflated by the time that they actually do it anyway.
And we should mention Hennepin County has agreed that they are going to pick up 10% of the subsidizing. Mm-hmm. So you will never stop paying for this. That $1 billion, to say that's what it costs is a total joke.
Yeah.
That $1 billion is nothing compared to what it's going to cost to subsidize the land, the use, the capital costs. It's an indefinite expense.
Right. So why are they putting this $18 million out there? It's because they expect to get it back from the FTA. But there's no promise of that. There's no reason to believe that we're going to get it, other than if we do exactly everything that the FTA wants us to do with the line.
So what does that tell you? It tells you we're going to do everything they want us to do.
Let's do everything you want to do. That's exactly how this works.
So the bottom line is that we have no effect from now on. The FTA is calling the shots. People from Washington, D.C., appointed bureaucrats who've never spent 1 minute, probably couldn't even find us on a map. Maybe they could find Minneapolis.
There's something else I don't think they could find with a map in both hands.
Yeah, but that's true. Couldn't grab something with two arms, I mean. Did I say arse? Yeah. Yeah, so $18 million will be spent out of one of their buckets of money, because the Railroad Authority has got its own levy, which a lot of people don't know, that's not part of Hennepin County's budget. Their operating budget. They've got their housing authority, just like the cities do.
Right.
They've got their Railroad Authority.
But the Railroad Authority is made up of county commissioners.
That's right. They give the gavel, OPAD. I'm sure has to be pride to give that gavel up.
Oh, boy.
You know, with his ego.
Could you imagine that?
I nominate you to take it from him.
Oh, man. He was quoted in the Sun Post as saying, "It's never easy to vote to spend some money hoping you'll get it back, and your project is going to be approved. But we've done it before, and we've done it with some success, and we'll do it again with this project." So I think
some
that's great.
success. So I'd like
Not
to hear
all success.
right, and I'd like to hear why isn't the Sun Post digging up what has been a success and what hasn't? Now, if I were a reporter,
Yeah.
and I heard a politician say, "Well, yeah, we've done it before with some success,"
Yeah.
okay, that implies that you haven't been successful sometime.
Right.
Is the Sun Post the least bit curious as to when this has been done? How much money
Yeah.
has not gotten back to us?
Because I'll tell you this: if it's been 50% of the time, if multiple tens of millions of dollars have been wasted because we haven't gotten it back, I would like to know so I could lay that at the feet of Mike Opat and ask him to explain it.
Good luck.
That's true. I mean, it's not like he's ever replied to any of my emails looking for information before.
He's
But-
too busy thinking he's governor material.
So yeah, this is the problem. I mean, we're putting this money out there. We fully expect we're going to get it back with no assurances whatsoever. And this is just for the development stage. I mean, that's what we're entering now, is this development stage.
Yeah, and it basically is, we're going to do whatever we have to shove this down our throats.
Yep.
If we have to go into debt, so be it.
Yep.
If we have to tear up a bunch of roads, so be it. If we have to force people out of their homes, so be it. It just it's the ends in Mike Opat's world. And I don't know what color the sky is. The ends always justify the means.
Yep. So this is where you will begin to see with the engineering plans that they start to come together with. You'll start to see where they want some of these developments to be, where the stops are going to be. You're going to understand how they want it to run. And then they will do a review of their environmental study. And then they're going
They'll amend it, too.
They'll amend it, and then they're going to go obtain cities' approvals. It lasts about 2 years. So really, we've got about 2 years from the time that the FTA makes their decision on whether they're going to give us the $18 million or not. We've got 2 years from that point in time till
Before the construction begins.
when the construction begins.
If the timeline holds out, construction will begin in 2017 or 18.
Yeah.
If everything that they have in place goes in place. Now, it's been delayed a couple times. Gold Valley held it up for a while. But that makes the 2014 elections critical. It makes not just your cities, but the county. It's you want your voice to be heard. I'm telling you, after next year, it won't be.
I'm telling you, Crystal is probably one vote away from being able to hold it up again. And Golden Valley, I mean, really, they're only a couple votes away from being able to hold it up again as well. And so it's really important in these cities that you do that, because you're not going to have a prayer of holding it up in Minneapolis. They would name their line the...
R.T. Ryback would name it after himself if he could.
Well, I suppose. I mean, that's only if he can't name it the Chairman Mao Express or something like that. Well, anyways.
No, that's true.
It is true, yeah. Something like that, or maybe...
Yeah, but like you said, it's at all costs.
Yeah.
Regardless of what... And we should point out, too, these people will try to tell you that we are connecting to jobs. We are connecting... X amount of riders are going to use this. I challenge you to find where jobs have been created along light rail that have not been subsidized with your tax dollars.
Yep.
There's also stories that have come out that the Met Council, Metro Transit's been handing out passes to businesses to try to get their employees to ride it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not people choosing to ride light rail. They're being coerced.
Yeah, exactly. And so you really do see a gaming of the system, and you can't trust any of the information that you're getting on it. So what do you do to understand exactly what the outcome is going to be? I think that besides the obvious going here,
Yeah.
You've also got to take a look at the websites for the Metropolitan Council, and you've got to take a look at the websites for Transit for Livable Communities and the FTA. And
they also have a TOD
Yeah.
plan. I don't know if it's a 2030, but a transit-oriented development where, of course, they want the same thing put everywhere.
Yeah.
And that is their long-term vision. Now, we might be dead and gone by then, but that's the direction that they're going to push.
Yeah.
They'll use their grant money. They'll use their clout. They'll use their review of comprehensive plans
Yeah.
to force that in.
Yep, they certainly will. So,
Just to wrap this up,
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to do the work yourself, my friends. We're trying to help you, but so go to our blog, communitysolutions.mn.wordpress.com. Watch our YouTube stuff. Challenge what these people say, and don't let their assumptions and assertions go unchallenged.
yeah, we've got 2 years, and we can put a major roadblock in front of them to getting this accomplished.
True, I could lay down on the tracks. Maybe that
Wow.
would get it to turn.
I don't know if they'd stop
I don't
if
think
it was
they
you
would.
on
My
the tracks.
GoPat was driving. There's no way he'd stop.
No.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Go out in a phase of glory.
So we've all got our part to play to stop the Stalin steamer, but I think that we can do it. I think that we can do it. It's just going to be a matter of time and getting organized. And I don't know, maybe light rail's your thing and you don't want to stop it. Well, then, get involved anyways and do what you think is right for your community. Me, I live a big baseball toss throw from the tracks.
I'm a 3-iron.
And I'm going to do what I can to stop it. You got to do what your conscience tells you to do, but not being involved is no way to go through life.
Not
because,
being involved
yeah,
is endorsing it.
They will make decisions whether you get involved or not, and then you've got to live with them.
You not being involved is what they secretly want.
Yeah,
Let's just be honest here. So.
that's how they stay in power. So.
All right. Well, that was a good show.
Yeah, it certainly was. So, again, we are at communitysolutionsmn.wordpress.com. You can email us at comsolutions, that's with 2M, comsolutionsmn@gmail.com. And let us know of things that are going on in your community. We'll look into it. We'll come out. We'll talk about light rail. We'll come out. We'll talk about development. We'll talk about plans, comprehensive plans. We'll talk about budgets. We'll do candidate training.
Yeah, and email us good or bad. We like to hear good things once in a while. I don't get too many of them, but it would be nice to hear them once in a while.
It sure would be. We like to congratulate communities that are doing the right thing as well.
And I would say this, too, that even if you disagree with us on this issue, we can help you on other issues. If there's another issue you're passionate about, or you want to learn more, and maybe you don't see eye to eye with us on stuff, I will sit down with anybody who hates me and go over this stuff. It doesn't bother me one bit.
No,
so that's invitations also out there. All right.
All right.
Till next time.
Yes, so long.